Call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Gravelisi, the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board and Community Development Planner for the City of Revere. This is the July 9th, 2025 meeting of the City of Revere Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. We'll begin with a roll call of the members. So Joe Gravelisi, I'm present. Our Vice Chair, Matt Wolford.
Here.
And our Treasurer, Anayo Osweki.
Present.
Lori Manzo is not here. She couldn't make it today, so she let us know that she couldn't make it. Deb Frank.
Here.
Yep, so she's here virtually. Layla Pietri.
Present.
And Dean Harris.
Present.
And then our newest member, so welcome. It's her first meeting with us, Judy Gosselin.
Thank you. Present.
All right. With that, we're going to, as usual, start with just a check-in on the finances from the treasurer's side.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anayo Osweki. I'll read the current balance as it stands now, read from, provided to us by Asuta Newton, Assistant Budget Director of Revere City. The current budget is $910,658.73. That's 910-658-73.
Thank you. Then a couple caveats I'll add to that is that I don't believe the check has been cut yet for the neighborhood developers for the project we're supporting. So we'd have to include that. And then also we have funds that we've portioned out for the first-time home buyer down payment assistance that haven't been allocated yet. So I think if you take into account kind of what's been encumbered but not spent, you'd I think reduce 90,000 from that, but still we're on track with kind of what we set for our budget goals for the year and kind of staying on board with that. So that's good. Any other questions on the finances side? So we have a guest presentation today. If you want to come on up and introduce yourself, from North Suffolk regarding some work that they're doing in the community. And with that, yep, come right up. And so, yeah, if you just want to just state your name, address, affiliation into the mic. Yeah, if you could just you have to turn the mic on. I don't know if it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There. Hi, my name is Tim Gray. I work for North Suffolk Community Services. We've been in the city of Revere for 65 years, providing services and residential programs. One of the reasons I'm here today is we have a current project at 131 Hitchbond Street in Revere. It was a property that we've owned for 35 years. It wasn't handicap accessible. Oh, by the way, we serve the disabled in residential rental housing in the community. We have 10 residential programs in the city of Revere. We're also, I want you to know, we're a substantial taxpayer through a pilot agreement with the city as well, and a proud taxpayer at that as well. I think you've seen a budget from our project on Hitchbond, and this is a hugely successful project. It's 85% complete. The original home that was there served 5 individuals for 35 years. Tremendous success. The location worked really well for residents. They had access to public transportation and community services, and just thrived and did really well at this location. The state and North Suffolk decided it was obsolete. The lack of accessibility made it so that the individuals living there, some for 30 years, a couple of the ladies that lived there have been in place for 30 years, could no longer live there because of that lack of wheelchair accessibility. So they've been temporarily relocated. The home was demolished. New duplexes being built, be 9 units, bedrooms, units for individuals with disabilities referred through the Mass Department of Developmental Services. It's a beautiful project, and I would encourage any of you interested to come and take a look at it. It's state-of-the-art, from accessibility, bathrooms, features for durability and sustainability over time. It's energy efficient. It has some of the most modern efficiencies and energy efficiencies built into it, although it was designed prior to us being mandated to do electric heat. So while we have charging stations and solar installation on the roof, many other features that will bring efficiency and cost efficiency to the project, we didn't get the electric heat in. And at the time, we would have loved to have done that, but went through design. We were pressing for a building permit, and it turned out to take a little longer to get that building permit, but we got it. We're 85% complete. Again, it's beautiful, and you're welcome to come, and anyone that wants to come out, and if you'd like to have a tour of the site, by all means, you could ask Joe through an email, and we're there 5-6 days a week, so happy to accommodate that. And we're on site weekly, every Monday, so at the development team. So the reason we're here is we want, next year, we're going to close. This project has various funding. We got a grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank. We have a large sum of money coming from the state through a fund that's set aside for people with disabilities. And we had a $300,000 grant with the support of the city of Revere through the North Suburban Consortium. And it was awesome. We were really psyched about it. We worked hard. We applied for it. We had the mayor and the planner. We had really strong support from the city, which we're still grateful for. And we applied and we won. And we told the city of Malden that we're ready to start construction. And they said, well, you can't start construction right away because we have to complete an environmental review. And we said, no problem, we'll help with it. What can we do? And they said, well, one of the time-consuming things, for example, was the Mass Historic sign-off, right? Well, we had already done that, so we're like, here it is. And you know, we had a phase 1 environmental site assessment. We had a lot of environmental review. Lenders and every participant in the project needed it. But, you know, that home program has its unique review. And they said they needed some time to do it. Well, it turned out we thought we were going to start that project in May of 2024, and we didn't get started until October. And that was just through our rookie attempts of the permitting process, National Grid, you name it. There was a lot going on there. It took us all that time. By the time we were ready to start, we had been out to bid. We had our contractors lined up, obviously, and we weren't in a position to say, oh, we can't wait for the city of Malden to complete the environmental review. It was tragic. But about 6 months that they had it, they just weren't able to complete it. And for that reason, we lost that $300,000 grant. And we're trying to make up as much of that as we can. And we understand that the trust fund, we understood this 2 years ago, by the way, that it didn't have a lot of money, probably wasn't a great source, but at the same time, and that's where the city directed us through Malden, through the pool of home funds. But at the same time, we think we're a great, worthy project. We have 9 residents, 5 of them are longtime Revere citizens. The others are generally people referred where their families are from Revere. It isn't a guarantee, but that's people, they cite people in communities to be close to their family, to have those connections. They're very low income. The individuals are disabled. They're never going to improve their income beyond a cost of living increase. And there are 9 permanent units for the city of Revere's housing inventory. They get those no matter what, but they are not counted as 9 permanent units. That's a lot of information. I'd be happy to answer any questions about North Suffolk or this project.
Yeah, so I'll make it, I'm a little bit more familiar than maybe some of the others, so I want them to get a chance to ask questions, but I also just want to get a sense from you, you know, so is 300,000 that kind of fell through from the NSC grant, is that the entire gap that you're looking to fill for the
Yes.
project funding at this point? So what are some of the other sources that you're looking to right now to try to do
In
that?
terms of filling the gap?
Yeah,
Well, so whatever we aren't able to raise through public sources or quasi-public or grant, we're going to raise through Citizens Bank, our primary bank. So we would, otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to go forward if we weren't able to guarantee that. So that's our position. You know, one of the things we have to do on a project like this, because our individuals are they're all considered very low income. That's 50% of the area median or below. But our individuals are actually below 30% of the median income. And it would not be uncommon for an individual to have as little as $1,000 Social Security payment a month. We take 30% of that for their rent. The 45% of the rest of that goes to their board and their care. And those individuals end up with 25% or $250 a month for the rest of their budget, social, you name it. So our people are very poor. They're always going to be poor, and we feel like we just want to advocate for them as strong as we can to get whatever resources we could, if any, from the trust fund. Any money goes, it's a fabulous cause. It's a worthy cause. These are permanent units, too. They'll never not be there. The existing home that we bought in 1990 lasted 35 years. It was a great site. It was a hugely successful site. And back then, you know, getting any site and getting people out of institutions and housed, such a big move that we weren't thinking we need accessibility and we need places that people to age in place. We just did, you know, we got 35 good years, but it wasn't well planned and well thought out. Today, the new housing is well planned, is well thought out, is strictly regulated by the state to maintain and hold the features that are necessary for people with disabilities to be served and to live well in a residential setting. So these are, you know, new resources for the city. They're permanent. They'll always be here and always be a priority for local people. And that's our story. I mean, you know, we understand it's a limited source, but we would be grateful for any amount of money, any commitment at all that would help us offset the loss of the home funds, if that's possible. And just one more thing, we're not closing with our funding sources, all of them, the Federal Home Loan Bank, the state, till January or later of 2026. So just the way this project flows, we close all the sources at the same time. So we don't need money today, but we do need it for next year. And if it's a possibility, we'd be grateful for it. Fill out any application, comply with any requirements, including environmental. And I'm not meaning to even joke about that. It was really an unfortunate situation for us to lose that home commitment. Tragic, really, you know.
yeah, and I think I'll get on my unrelated soapbox and say I think this is a good reminder for a lot of folks that you know, there are states that have looked into some ways to do some streamlining of some of the environmental reviews and permitting when it comes to affordable housing projects, just make those projects, that process work more smoothly. And that's something, you know, we have no control over it as a board, but to the extent that I have my bully pulpit for that, you know, we certainly believe in that and help allow you know, folks like you to do the work that you're doing. I think obviously we had a little conversation about the budget realities of kind of where we sit as a trust, and I'll get into that a bit. But before I do want to just make sure that other members have a chance to ask questions about the project itself, you know, for those that maybe not be as familiar with it.
Yeah, I guess it would be good for us to understand how does it impact North Suffolk and, you know, your other initiatives if, you know, the worst case scenario transpires and you do have to fund this whole gap with the conventional financing?
Well, so we pay a higher mortgage and we pay longer, higher carrying costs. What happens is we maintain the affordability for the residents, you know, because we have to do that. Even the funding sources, the Federal Home Loan Bank and the state, it's called Facilities Consolidation Fund. Those two funds require low-income, disabled, people paying 30% of their income towards rent. So what happens is we make up the difference, we pay a higher mortgage. What we try to do is neutralize the cost of the housing. That's our goal in every project that we develop, because we don't make money on housing. Our business really is services and taking care of people. Housing costs are costs like everyone, and we try to neutralize those costs using the public resources, and then to the best of our ability. If you or I to buy a house, we'd do it based on our income, our job, and it would work, and we'd buy whatever we could afford, and the bank would be willing to finance us. But our clients would never be able to afford a housing, even an affordable unit in the inventory of the rental market today. Our clients would never be able to afford those rents and never be able to live in affordable, accessible housing. So what we upset the market in the sense that we will do what it takes to house our people. And here we're paying, we're gonna make up the difference. That's what we're gonna do, is make it up. But in a real world, the income of the individuals would support the housing. And in this case, we lose that by losing the grant. So it is the nature of it. And it sounds a little strange, but we fight for every dollar. Even in construction, you have a project, $2.5 million. It seems like a lot of money, and it certainly is a lot of money, but there's not an extra $10,000. There's never, it's amazing to me that we fight and scrimp and scrounge and insist on real fiscal discipline on these deals. And there's never any extra money. There's never a bonanza or a surplus. And, in this project, we did this budget about 1.5 to 2 years ago. And the fact that it hasn't been updated, but we've used about 90% of our contingency in construction, and we're getting down to the end. We're going to make it, and we're going to hold the budget. Even our bank, our lender at Citizens Bank, who's also the agency's primary bank, is like, wow, how did you do that? How did you hold the budget? But it's because it's a disciplined approach. And the other thing, too, when we bid, we had to start construction. We couldn't wait on the environmental after all those months, or else we were going to lose the bid and go back out and maybe lose even more than $300,000. It was an awful situation for us to be in. So we were at a point where we had to start. We didn't think we were going to lose the grant at first, because we had done so much to help get what was completed on the environmental done. The stuff they told us was time-consuming. Because we had already had that done and was able to turn it right in, we thought, and we offered, to do everything else that we could under our control. But it is what it is. That's the story. I'm sorry, I probably went on a little too much there.
No, that's great, thank you.
You bet.
I've got one follow-up question.
Sure.
I'm sorry if you've said this already, but just for clarity, is it a short-time funding loss, or is it a perpetual shortfall?
I'm sorry, is
Is
it
it like a one-time?
Yeah.
You may have said it before.
the
but
$300,000?
It's a short-term, one-time.
One-time amount of money that we're gonna, whatever happens come January, if we're able to raise some towards it, we're gonna reduce that deficit. If we're not, we're gonna fund it through an increased first mortgage and a loan on the property.
A couple of questions. The existing building that was there prior to construction, how many units were there?
5.
So you're increasing that to 9, so it's a net gain of 4. And then the total construction costs for the project, how much is the total project?
The total development cost or just hard construction?
The development cost.
Okay,
whole
so the total development cost is 2.552
Okay,
and change, $2.5 million.
and so you'd need about 10% of that now. Okay,
And just, we own the property outright, so we didn't have any acquisition costs on this project, which was a gift, and so that was a big, that saved us some money, and that was a big bonus.
Okay, the only ones who can apply are people or families who are belong to Suffolk Community Service?
So that's an excellent question. The people that can apply are people with developmental disabilities that are eligible through the Massachusetts Department of Developmental Services. And so, those decisions for the housing placements, it's tough. I've worked with families for more than 30 years that are being placed in housing. And some families wait 10, 15 years for their sons and daughters to be placed. A lot of times what happens is parents are aging. These are all adults, by the way, all adults living in the housing, no children. So what happens is the children become adults, the parents become elderly, they're not able to care for their children. Sometimes it's an emergency. So decisions are made locally. There's a local office that covers Revere from DDS. They make the decisions of who gets served. They know who's local, waiting, needed, in an emergency. And those referrals come in. And anyone can make a referral through this system for this housing. This is publicly funded in part, and it's a public resource. It is a restricted occupancy for the disability type. And the reason is the services needed to take care of people, to provide for their care and safety and quality of life, it needs to be such that people are served, in a program that have like needs. And that's just the way it works. This home is set up as a duplex. There's 5 and 4. And it's, there's a firewall. They're completely separate units. It's connected physically, but you can't walk from one unit to the other unit. They're private spaces, so that, you can't have 9 people living in a really big space. They're big spaces. I wanted to just take a look at the square footage you think I would know this, but I can't tell from looking at this. But, like 2,800 square feet aside with that 5th unit, the one with the 5 units has a second floor unit. It's made for an individual that can live a little more independently. Still needs to be connected to the staff and the service, but they allowed more independence to the point where they're able to live independently completely out in the community. So it's sort of a transitional place for them, that one 5th unit. So, but it goes all through the state. 100% of the referrals come through the state. We have a fair housing marketing plan that we have to promote, and in our case, we're a minority neighborhood, minority neighborhood, and our targets are everyone in the community. We want our residential programs to look, and our whole organization looks and feels and represents the community. We're well represented in that way in terms of diversity of who's being served. Not every home, not every project or program, but overall, we're a tremendous community-wide provider, advocate, and, it's our mission to take care of people, period. And we're good at it. I want to say we are really good at it. North Suffolk is a big agency. They have over 1,000 employees. Nearly 100 of those employees are Revere residents. you know, it's a tremendous, over $60 million a year business, serving just this really tight-knit Revere, the north suburban communities, East Boston, and, well, Chelsea, obviously, but just a really tight geographically area. So we have an unbelievable impact just because even though we've got a huge presence in Revere, we also do in the other handful of communities that are involved. And we're always hiring, always have openings. So we're a huge economic force in the community, period. I want to just say, boy, we're a great company. And anyone you know is looking for a job, looking for a good outfit to work for with great benefits, North Suffolk is the place to send them to because it is a resource for all of us, you know. Whether we're going to serve our family or relatives or friends or neighbors or whether we're going to work there, it's a tremendous place and they have unbelievable jobs, not just frontline service jobs, but administrative and professional level positions, clinical, nursing, a full range of level of care and service jobs that they provide. So if you ever want to make a referral or look for a job for yourself, this is a great company.
So questions on the project? I want to make sure, Deb as well, just make sure I didn't miss any virtual hand you'll see there. So I'll just kind of get in on the path forward. You know, I'd say, as you know, from the fact that, you know, the mayor's office and planning and community development was very strongly supportive of the project and application, I think I can speak for the board and that we share the appreciation for the work North Suffolk does in the community, and we value your partnership and want to be partners, you know, whether it be on this or others moving forward. You know, as we discussed, just like from a funding standpoint, you know, we face challenges as you do. I want to figure out a way to be helpful, but I think just to kind of set context, the TND project, which was in conjunction with North Suffolk also, 110 Ocean, which came before us, you know, really, we were able to allocate $50,000 to support that project, and that was over a 3-year window, and that was for a larger project. You know, so I just think, you know, in terms of like kind of cost per unit, just to kind of set expectations in terms of what we'd be able to kind of entertain for an ask just based on our budget realities. You know, we also had a reduction, you know, for all good reasons, you know, new high school and other commitments in the city, we had a reduction in kind of what came in this year for us from the city council to the trust in terms of our ongoing sustainable funding. So that's the downsides. You know, on the opportunities side of the ledger, you know, I'd say that we have a commitment, you know, from our treasurer and Judy, our newest member, and other folks that have been involved to kind of try to find additional fundraising opportunities, you know, and perhaps find ways that we can partner with organizations where, you know, we can leverage support from the trust to unlock philanthropy, for instance. Like that's an avenue that we can explore and go down. We've have some projects that are designed, like I mentioned, as like 0 interest loans or low interest loans and other things that we could explore. So I think, you know, since you have time, you know, I think if you were kind of asking us for like a dollar figure today, it would be hard for us to do that just because we're hopefully approving 2 additional programs that we've been working on for months today, and we had, you know, 110 Ocean last month. But, you know, I think I can't speak for everyone. I want to figure out ways that we can be involved and supportive of the organization's work, you know, to some capacity, and support the project in some capacity. I just want to make sure that we're kind of setting some budget kind of just some understanding of kind of where we sit from.
I want to say I totally get that, totally understood it. Tom told me up front
Yeah.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
don't count from the trust fund.
Yeah.
He told me that, but let me
Yeah.
say this, we want to help with the trust fund. We've seen successful trust funds grow in other communities, cities and towns in Massachusetts. So we're a great partner. I don't know whether it's us squeezing our bank or how we help you grow that. But remember, we have prominent, well-educated, connected people in the community. Some are making a lot of money. We need to work together to make sure because you have a tremendous resource, and if you could tie linkage or one way or the other, if you could grow your trust fund, you could do so much more. And I'm not talking just for us, and I'm not even talking just for this project, because Deanne Reese was gonna join me today, and he had a family thing and couldn't make it tonight. But we've talked today over the last few days, and we realized we might not, we're gonna hope to get something out of it, reduce our costs, stretch the dollars. That's our hope. But we're not here for this single project. We're here for the long term. We're gonna work with you. We're gonna have other projects down the road, and we're gonna figure out ways to help you grow the trust fund. If we can be supportive in those ways, then you have a partner that's ready to roll up their sleeves. And North Suffolk's not going anywhere. This is our home turf. We just celebrated our 65th anniversary, and we're on to our 66th. And we're gonna keep going, and even in difficult financial times, and these seem to be where we're headed right now, we're up for the fight, and we're gonna be here, working alongside everyone, so.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
and certainly the spirit of partnership and continued work together. I think we all share that for sure. Want to make sure that I'm offering folks the opportunity to ask questions or kind of weigh in.
I just think, I agree with you that we would have to decide as a trust, sit down and maybe decide, how much of our budget do we want to go to these types of development projects, and then maybe put out some sort of an RFP, like, hey, the Affordable Housing Trust is going to issue $100,000 or $50,000, and then weigh in proposals and give everyone kind of a fair shake, and do it that way. North Suffolk's a great institution. They do a lot of good work for the community, so there's no denying that. But I think, as Joe's saying,
No, that's an excellent point.
Considering a third of our budget right now would be
Yeah.
a tough thing to do.
No, you just made an excellent point, and that's how it works everywhere else. I mean, that's the way it is. So even the Federal Home Loan Bank and the state funds, everything, we're competing for these funds. On the Federal Home Loan Bank side, 50% of the people that try to apply never make it. So we know it's a battle, and we compete, and that's an excellent point. That's exactly the way these things work and how we do it. And we're up for that. We don't always win, but we always try real hard and put our best foot forward.
I don't think it has to be a protracted thing either, where, in my mind, maybe by, September we put something out, October, November we make a decision that if you were to win, it would come within, your January 26th deadline that's needed. Maybe it's several awards at certain amounts, maybe it's, one larger one, but I think that's something that we should discuss at some point before we make that decision.
Well, thank you. That we'd be up for that, and follow whatever process you recommend, and that would be very normal and a simplified process. One of the things, like the state tends to be really bureaucrat. The Federal Home Loan Bank, a lot easier. In trust funds, in the local funds, even home funds, generally are pretty easy flowing. So you can have a simple process, but a good and fair process for everyone in the community. And we know we're just one need, right? You guys have got you got the whole community-wide needs, and we respect everyone else's need as well. We know we fight for ours and advocate for ours, but we also recognize that all of us need to be considered. So there's a lot going on out there and a lot of needs, for sure.
And Dean, thank you for that. I think I would agree that that's the route for us that we'd want to take in terms of funding, like supportive housing or maybe extremely low income rental housing. Kind of, we can figure out how we'd want to group that bucket of our budget, I'd say, and then make it an application process. So I think that makes sense. So I think that's something that we should work on, as a group between now and the next meeting. I also think, like I mentioned, we're going to continue to explore on our end, ways to grow the trust and ways that we can kind of grow what we can do. And so as as those conversations continue, we'd certainly want you to be, part of those conversations too. Other questions, comments, feedback? Yeah. Okay, so I think next steps for us, we're gonna have an internal conversation about what we can allocate, to these types of projects and kind of create that application process.
Sure.
Let's also be in touch over the course of the next month about, ways that we can be supportive. Frankly, one of the challenges I think for us is that to try to stretch the limited dollars that we have, we've really focused on areas where if we lean in with X, it kind of helps unlock other funds afterwards. Like, with 110 Ocean, we kind of provided the city backstop to support getting state funding in.
I want to just say that's an excellent
Yeah.
point. And usually we'll come to you for us,
Right.
get a little seed money. Then we go to the state and say, look, the
Yeah.
city's giving us seed money. And even a
Right.
small amount of money
For
from
sure.
the city, it brings the state money. So I'm with you on
Yeah.
that too. We're on the back end. This is
Yeah.
but opposite time. But that's an excellent point. And we've done that, dozens of times where we get that small amount of local money, that's the seed. You used to have a little something from the city or town before you could qualify for state. Now, not as much, but you used to have that, and we're familiar with that. It's familiar, really.
Yeah, and I think that those are the, as we develop, first of all, just projects that we discuss on an ad hoc basis, but I think as we develop standards for these things too, those are the types of opportunities that we'd advantage. That being said, obviously, I think I understand the importance of the situation that you're in and also the work that you're doing. So we'd want to continue to have that conversation about, what the budget looks like for us.
Sure.
I'd say I'll reach out to you also about, if folks do want to do a site visit and go see the site. I'm sure
Excellent.
I'd be
Love that.
interested in doing that, even just wearing the city, the city hat as well.
Absolutely,
So
would
we
love
can keep
that,
as a possibility. So I think, we'll keep in touch about what this looks like on our end and those conversations, and we'll have you come back, whether it just be as a call or if you want to come back again. And we'll keep in touch about this, in the months ahead.
Absolutely. So, I want to say, I always love coming to Revere because I'm originally from Revere. My family is from Revere. My grandparents ran the Arcade Bazaar on the
Right.
beach and lived on the beach for decades, and even in the Shirley Ave neighborhood. And so I was talking to a couple of my brothers on the way over, and I said, hey, I'm going over to Revere City Hall. And they're like, oh, what is this? So we
I was
always
gonna
feel like
say,
we're
we're gonna
coming
have
home.
to test your bona fides, like what street, but maybe we can leave that for
For the next meeting,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll leave
I
that
do
to
have
Tuesday.
the information though. So I want to thank you all, really.
Thank you.
And wish you well, and we'll look forward to talking some more. And finding out what we can do,
Mm-hmm.
It's two-way street, so we want to add to the plan and grow the budget.
Absolutely. Thank you for the information. We really appreciate it.
You bet.
I'll be in touch about coming to visit and then also kind of how things evolve for us.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank you. All right, take care. Thank you. All right, anything else from anyone on that agenda item before we move? Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is our senior citizen home repairs program, which I sent everyone. I think I gave everyone a handout physically in addition to email that I sent out earlier with some information about kind of where this sits. Did anyone not receive it? Or are we, okay. So just to provide an overview, one of the first things that we really talked about when we got off and running with the Affordable Housing Trust was creating some sort of program to support low-income seniors, to support their sort of aging in place within the city. And this is something that we discussed as something that we could partner with an external agency with, or ultimately it was decided that we were going to go forward with doing something internally that we ran through the city and that was funded through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It's gone through a few different iterations, I'd say, as we discussed kind of guidelines, ways it could go, what the application process would look like. But in conversation with the trust board, as well as with city staff, with elder affairs, the mayor's office. We've started to shape kind of contours of what a program could look like, and wanted to bring to everybody, you know, it's not sort of finalized. I think there's obviously room for input on any kind of last minute changes, but a concept for what this program would look like. And I think the idea behind it is, we want to help, you know, senior citizens that have lived in their homes, you know, that are part of the community here, that have certain accessibility needs. You know, they might need to put in a ramp or replace some railings in their home, or have HVAC needs that have evolved as they've gotten older. You know, maybe they have an older home that wasn't built with modern HVAC, and as we know, with, you know, weather getting hotter here and also people getting older, they may need to upgrade, you know, put in an air conditioning unit. So it could be something small like that, or it could be something on the bigger end, like there's certain critical safety-related roof repairs that need to be done that, you know, present a significant financial burden for folks. So it's a priority for the mayor, you know, and for myself, and I think for all of us to try to support some of these folks. And the way that we'd like to do this is through a program that allows us to fund projects up to $5,000. We have sort of a set of, you'll see on the document, examples of types of projects that we'd fund, although it's not limited to those. We'd review all the applications on a case-by-case basis, with the justification being, you know, this is kind of for health, safety, allowing folks to age in place in the home. Eligibility is based on, you know, Revere residency, owner occupancy, being 60 or older, and also being at or below 80% of area median income, which generally applies to, you know, most seniors who are retired. And this would be based on household income, you know, and I think that in household income for these purposes includes anyone that lives in the home. So we would take into consideration, you know, the income of if they have like an adult child living at home or someone else that lives in the home with them, that they might have the financial capacity to support. So, you know, the real target audience for this really are those folks that maybe just don't have other resources to lean on. And it might be hard for them to access this kind of work without a little bit of extra support and funds from the city. That's a little bit of a long-winded wind-up into saying, you know, we have a few different documents that I sent to you all to review that show the application itself, some of the program guidelines, and then the award letter that spells out like the terms and conditions that people have to agree to in order to receive the funding. But I just want to talk through how we kind of envision it going, and then we can talk through some of the specifications. But the way it's been discussed with Elder Affairs and with the Chief Financial Officer, and I think, you know, some of us have been on these conversations as well, is people will fill out an application either on their own or with the assistance of senior center staff. So senior center staff will be trained on how to help people with this in case that, you know, might not have access to the internet or kind of as internet literate to be able to fill out an online application. So senior center staff will be trained to help people do these in person. They will submit, you know, their proof of owner occupancy, their proof of their income, and then also a project description and a contractor's estimate. So they would get the contractor's estimate first. Then through the process of reviewing the application, you know, the trust would be represented on this process, planning and community development, elder affairs, and then also John Festa, who's in planning and community development, in conjunction with like the building department. He does some of our small business loan programs. He has a construction background. We would review these applications, ensure that the contractor is licensed, you know, has all their proper permitting. We'd make sure that, you know, the assessor's office records match, you know, the owner occupancy that's listed in the application. And then we would also do kind of a spot check, I suppose, of the contractor's estimate, of the photos, of the work description, to ensure that it's logical, right, that it's something that meets the definition of need for aging in place, and that the estimate is fair and appropriate, you know, for the scope of work that's going to be done. If approved, an award letter with terms and conditions would be signed by the recipient that says that they receive either the cost of the project or $5,000, whichever number is lower. So the maximum award to an individual would be $5,000 as a reimbursement at the end of, once the work is completed. So essentially, when the work is completed, contractor, photos would be submitted to the city verifying that the work has been completed. We'd probably have someone just go by to do a quick site visit to check and verify that it's been completed. And then the resident could be reimbursed by that amount. The amount would be capped at, what was submitted in advance. So we wouldn't be responsible for like overruns, cost increases, things like that. And that's all spelled out in the agreement, so residents would have to understand that if there was additional work that needed to be done or overruns or things of that nature, we're funding kind of what we agreed to fund up front. So we're just trying to be really kind of strict and clear about that. And this would be a grant, so it wouldn't be a loan, it would be something that would be just a grant to help support the homeowner, in this instance, the senior citizen. I feel like I probably skipped a step or two, over the course. It's a pretty comprehensive set of documents, but that's a broad contour. And I wanted to just put up for questions, for those of you that either have or haven't had a chance to review it. Questions, feedback, input, kind of on the contours of the program.
First of all, this seems like an amazing program. I'm glad this is an opportunity for the seniors to take advantage of. My question is the time. When does it start? Does it end? Or is it just once we approve it, it just sort of goes into effect right away?
Yeah, so I think we're in the process right now. If and when the trust board A approves the project, and then also B, my initial hope was that we'd get external funding to cover the entire cost of it. I am going to ask that we allocate $37,500 to support this. We have $12,500 that came from a donation from former Speaker Robert DeLeo that can be committed to support this, and then we would want to backfill the rest. If we get on board with that and we vote and we approve it, then the next step is this application, plus any edits that might need to be made to it are going to be created on an online portal. So IT is working on that now. Once that's created, we would take some time for training of senior center staff, because senior center staff will be kind of on the front lines of answering questions, helping people fill out the applications, anticipating challenges or struggles that they people will have. So I'd anticipate probably like 2 to 3 weeks for that to go through kind of a training process. And then we'd want to create some time for marketing. I think our thought is we'd probably launch it with an in-person like Q&A at the senior center, and allow people to actually come and at the end of that Q&A sit down with a digital navigator at the senior center and apply right there in person. So I don't want to pin down like a specific date right now, but I'd say that if we approve this, probably like 6 weeks or so, I'd say to open it up. And then we'd have the application open and funds available on a first come, first served basis until we exhaust the $50,000. That's my thought, open to other if we want to create a different window for it. But that's kind of what I had in mind, if that's agreeable to the board. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. Other questions, either on timeline, on program guidelines, on design, cost, anything? And if folks feel like they need more time to review too, we can obviously take that.
Could you just give a voiceover on how application reviews are going to work?
Sure. So essentially, the first step is the senior center is involved in kind of that upfront, like the application comes in. When the application comes in, it'll have a timestamp, much like the first-time home buyer, because it's all going to go through a digital system that's been set up. So that's what's going to allow us to determine, the first-come, first-served basis. It'll be the planning and community development's job to internally track each applicant, how much money's been awarded, where the applicant is in the process, and then myself and John Festa, so we kind of have primary responsibility within planning and community development to make sure that folks submitted their income documents, they submitted their estimates, they submitted proof of their owner occupancy status, etc. Then we would send it to the assessor's office to make sure that everything matched with their records. And then we would have John, and then possibly with the assistance of the building department if needed, verify license status for the contractor, and then also do like a site visit and just quickly evaluate the feasibility of the project. Once all those steps are completed, at that point, if they've met all the guidelines, we would do the approval. We'd have them fill out the signing of the terms and conditions, and at that point, a purchase order can be generated, which would come out of the Elder Affairs Office. So I know I'm kind of throwing a lot of ping-ponging around, but we have it pretty mapped out, kind of how it would go. And then, once they actually complete the work, at that point, they submit the proof that the work has been completed along with photos. We'll do a site visit if necessary. It would be kind of closed out on our internal tracking system within planning and community development, and the check would go out from the treasurer's, from the treasurer's office. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep, and there's a little bit of a diagram on the last page that kind of maps out sort of step one, the actual, resident fills out the application. Step two is when we're reviewing the application, and then step three is people have been approved, kind of what happens between there and when they get the money, if that makes sense. Other questions? So I think, certainly I'd want to make sure if folks had additional questions, who wanted to take additional time, we could offer that. I do want to make a motion, to approve the funding. I know that the hope was that this would be covered externally. I think the budget's a little bit tighter, than I think we maybe wanted it to be, across all aspects of government and public service right now. I think this is a really worthwhile, and much to Dean's point, we're going to be prioritizing the work that we do and really thinking through that budget paradigm template that we put together. But this is something that's a really important priority, I think, for me as chair. It's an important priority for us as a department, and I think for the board as well to do this work. And I would make a motion that we approve that funding to allocate the $37,500 for the project.
Can I second that?
So ask all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes. Approve.
Yep, great. So I'll record that as a unanimous vote of approval, so I'll draft that up through you. The funds will be allocated to the Department of Elder Affairs, so it'll come out of their budget, but it'll come, basically the trust fund is gonna be allocating the funds to the Department of Elder Affairs. They have the $12,500 in additional support to pair with it, so it'll be a $50,000 program in total. And then next I would ask, if folks are comfortable approving the program design and application language as it's laid out, that would be great. If you want to take more time, I respect and understand that, but I would ask if people would consider approving it. I don't know, does anyone have any objections to that? You feel like you need more time? Okay, then I'd make a motion to approve the program design and application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? No? Great. Okay, so that's been recorded, that we've approved both the program design, the application, the terms and conditions, and then also the funding to go to Elder Affairs. So I'll draft up all of that and get it around to everyone so that you have it for your records. And Anayo, the treasurer's piece of it, will handle as well. And just thank you to everyone for all your work on this. I know this has been a journey. We started talking about this whenever, I think it was your first meeting, I think you said, right? So about 2 years. So really excited to get it going, looking forward to it. I think this is a way that we can really tangibly help people that really need it, right? And really kind of help them be able to remain in our community and age in place. And, I think we all have family, and we know that that can be a real challenge for folks. So thank you all for your support on this.
If you might, could we give another appreciation to Senator Robert DeLeo for his contribution? That's very admirable for him to contribute this much.
I would agree with that. Speaker DeLeo has been a friend to the community, and in particular a friend to the senior center, and he's supported a few different initiatives there, and we're grateful that this is one of the projects that through that generous gift we're able to support. So thank you for that. Okay. All right, so with that, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a report back on some of the discussions on an ADU loan program. This is another one where I gave you all some documentation on this, but this is more new. This is actually was finally we're kind of put together the first draft this week, so we're not going to vote on anything today. But I just wanted to start the conversation. We talked a little bit about the program that Wellfleet did to support loans to help people construct ADUs, and we kind of took that model. We had a bit of a subcommittee meeting about that with Judy, with Matt. Lori was part of it, although she couldn't attend today, and just kind of took the contours of that program and tried to develop something that fit our needs for Revere. And the way we kind of structured it and put it together was that we would offer 5 $10,000 loans, fully forgivable loans, to help with the construction of ADUs, with the caveat or requirement that for 5 years they'd have to rent it at or below what would be considered affordable to someone at 100% of area median income. Open to discussing kind of why we structured it that way, any changes that we'd want to make to it. But that's the rough kind of program outline. And then also in the documentation, it shows kind of how I envision the steps for the application process and things like that. But just wanted to put it out for discussion, kind of see what people think about it as a concept and how people feel about the guidelines. Because I know that we had a conversation last month about, where we'd want to set those, how long we'd want to set it for, et cetera. So just want to open it up for conversation. Anyone?
I mean, I don't really have any questions, but I guess I'll just add that, we spent a lot of time working together on this, and including like an hour before this meeting, and I think kind of how it's laid out here is really comprehensive. I think the application and just kind of the terms and conditions of the program are pretty solid for, what we're trying to do, and I think like as written, it's adequate for what the goal is here.
I appreciate you calling my work adequate. I'm kidding. So what I would ask is if everyone, if you have more questions now, great. But take a look at it. I think I sent it to everyone by email, but if not, I will at the end of the meeting, and you have your hard copies. Review it, put together your questions. Next meeting, we'll dive into it and maybe vote to finalize a program design. But I think that a lot of the work that we did first through first-time home buyer and then now through the senior repairs program helped make it kind of, okay, we kind of know these are the types of documents that we need people to sign, loan agreement, terms and conditions, application, what the requirements are. So it helped kind of smooth the way to put something together. And I think we'd be in pretty good position. I think that, as you all know, we have our new ADU ordinance in the city to be in compliance with state law. Hopefully this helps encourage some additional ADU construction. But I do know just anecdotally, that we have had a few people go through the process, and, there's certain financial burdens that come up with it. The pre-construction costs, the permitting costs. If you're adding a third unit, more often than not, you may also need to install like sprinklers for fire safety that you may not have had to have before. And if we can just help kind of smooth the process for a few people and help them, that might create a few ADUs that might not otherwise have been available, and that can create some affordable rental inventory in the city. So certainly ask that we all take a look at this, provide your feedback, and hope that we can move forward with something in the months ahead.
All the programs that the city is going to do, they're going to be advertised on the media, on the newspaper?
Yeah, so and that would be part of it too, right? We'd want to put together like a press campaign, TV, media, social media. Maybe we'll make the mayor, do a video, get him out there. Maybe when he's doing one of his cooking shows, if he's watching, we always appreciate those. But want to get the word out and let people know. I think we'd also want to include it right up front, while the funds remain available at the building department or at like site plan when people are actually going to apply for permits, to know that this is something that would be available to them if they're willing to rent it, at the affordable rate, so. Other questions, comments, feedback on ADUs? Great, so appreciate everyone's help with this. Other quick things, because I know we're at an hour, so some of it can be kind of quick updates and we can move. I'm going to reach out to everyone about scheduling some of those subcommittee meetings. I know, Judy, you've got a lot so we've had some energy around some of the private fundraising that we might be able to do, so I'd love to have you join our fundraising subcommittee, which Anayo is the chair of, so I'm just going to not even ask, I'm assigning you to it, we're drafting you into duty. And then on the home ownership side, we can continue to talk about some of the other ideas that we've had, but I just want to see if anyone has, I'm going to reach out about trying to set up these subcommittee meetings virtually next week. Are there any days that anyone is like, absolutely, you wouldn't be available for a call? Or can I just send out some windows and hopefully we can get everyone on? Okay, great, awesome. So expect an email with like a proposed date and time, and hopefully we can get those set up. Other quick updates, I mentioned just for first-time homebuyer down payment assistance, we've had a couple new applications come in since we expanded eligibility, so thank you for that. That was really much appreciated. We actually got a new application literally like at 6:30. I got the email notification as the meeting was starting.
Should we still encourage folks to apply, or is it at the?
Yes, although I would say that we're getting closer to the point where we'd have everything kind of spoken for if everyone that's been approved actually executes a purchase and sale agreement. But we do have 7 people in the queue right now who have been approved. They've met all the eligibility guidelines, but they haven't actually, entered into a purchase and sale yet. So they're in that window. They have 6 months to do it. And then we had one that was fully paid out, and someone received the funding, so that was great. So I think, and we have it tracked, and I don't have the tracker in front of me, but I believe we still have 2 spaces available that are like fully, completely unclaimed and unaccounted for.
So the payout would have been recognized in the current balance?
Yes, that's correct.
So the 900,000 reflects the
Yeah.
deficit? Okay.
Yep, but it doesn't reflect the people that have been approved, but the money hasn't gone out yet.
I see.
Because the money doesn't go out until you've entered into a purchase and sale.
And we would do the accounting when? Like that accounting sort of where now?
So we have it in our minutes that we've allocated the funding,
Sure,
and it should be denoted that the, for instance, the state earmark that came in is specifically earmarked for this program.
What I
so
mean by that, it's not like a pending transaction anywhere. It's just something that we have recorded
That's
somewhere.
correct.
It's not like
Yeah.
in the ether.
Right, so
So
we've
I-
restricted it for our own purposes, but it's not a separate budget item like
Sure.
within
Oh, okay.
municipal finance, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Other questions about that? So, yep, continue to encourage people to apply, but we're getting closer to filling all the slots, which is great. So thank you to everyone for your vote on that last month. The RFPs, the long-awaited RFPs for city-owned properties, I believe are going out like within the next few weeks. So that's exciting. I'll keep you all updated on that. And I had a conversation with the North Suburban Consortium about some of those deed-restricted properties that initially were Malden Redevelopment Authority and then came into the city. So I think we know where they all are now, which is great. So thank you all for kind of helping with that process as we learned. And I'm in the process of reaching out to some of the owners of those deed-restricted properties to let them know that as a board, we kind of all agreed that we're willing to help. If someone is looking to do that resale, we want to offer some assistance. We don't want to necessarily buy the house, but we do want to help with, maybe we can provide some support for marketing the property. We can connect people with people who applied for first-time homebuyer down payment assistance. We might be able to connect them to, like interest rate buy down programs, just different things we can do to help them smooth the process of what can be a little bit complicated of selling a deed restricted property. So that is ongoing. Does anyone have any other additional like late items that weren't reflected on the agenda that they'd want to add?
Yeah, just one small one. I don't know if we ever had any luck. I know you had reached out to the treasurer's office at NIO on like getting like some sort of a cadence on bank statements and just some of that information. I don't know if there's been any progress there, but just thinking about all the money that, you know, we're kind of thinking about committing here, and like it's kind of hard to put into context, like even North Suffolk here, like what's an amount of money that could make sense for us with the other commitments that we have and other things that we want to do without having an up-to-date budget. And I don't know if there's a way we could just get like a monthly statement for our account, and that would be just a good prompt for like, okay, let's do the monthly budget reconciliation and get that out, so we're all kind of across, you know, what the forecast looks like.
Correct. So first of all, thanks for that. I did actually follow up several times with your request directly to the
Yeah.
city budgeters, and I will follow up again because I thought they resolved the concern that you had, or the question to fill out you had like, you put together an agenda of schedule of payments of sorts.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I thought, but if not, I can definitely follow it up. Also, to your question or concern about getting some sort of a more, maybe an automated form of record keeping, monthly, quarterly, some frequency that we can sort of rely on. I have kind of
Right.
hinted at that, but I do think it's a kind of the domain of that of the city managers like Suta Newton and those that she reports to. That's why most of my correspondence with her is directly through email. But
Got it.
I can definitely inquire about that if there's more of a way to kind of automate those sorts of processes.
Yeah, it'd be good to find out, and if we can't get an automated monthly statement, that's fine, right? We don't have to reconcile things to the penny.
But your point is well taken, because, for example, we have some flows that are outflows that are expected with the folks that were successful with the first-time homeowners program. And Nasuta that team may or may not be aware of these, because as I said, it's not like pending in some sort of electronic transaction. It's an accounting that we are sort of physically recording. But if we would
Yeah.
communicate to them, it would be best. So I agree with you in that we should communicate that.
Yeah,
If we
so-
can have more automated processes.
Yeah, maybe we can try to set up a conversation with the treasurer's office for officers, you know, about that, just to make sure that that's all being tracked, you know, in a way that's consistent for everybody. And then also we should take that budget framework that you had, you know, sent to us, and we kind of look through and really formalize that and turn it into a way that we're internally tracking. Here are our existing commitments, here are our planned commitments, and then also, to Dean's point, you know, what we're specifically, we kind of put it in broad strokes, but really creating kind of what we're allocating to each type of project. We definitely should do that, so I think that's a point well
Sure,
taken.
Matt, please do send that again to me if they didn't get back to you. I was sort of back and forth with them for a while, and I did sort of assume that they kind of satisfied your concern. But if you start that up again, I can definitely, you know.
Yeah,
start
yeah,
that.
the one-time concern was satisfied, but just, I guess this is kind of a new ask, if we haven't asked directly on the monthly statement.
Maybe offline, if we can coordinate.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
Joe
we-
saying.
yeah, we can
Because I agree with
take
you,
it
it
off
should
for
be
email.
a system that's a little bit more transparent, maybe a little bit more automated. But again, the process by which I sort of been functioning on is basically through email chains and correspondence. And to the extent to which that
Understood.
always requires me to go and bug the team, trust me, I hear you.
Yeah, cool.
All right, any other items from anyone? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, see you in August.